Hello, Darklings. It is I, Mr. Macabre. This is a true Reddit story narration. I've never really believed in ghosts. I'm not religious, and although I've seen some strange things in my 26 years, nothing had ever convinced me 100% that the paranormal is real. But one experience, something that happened 6 years ago when I was 20, has stuck with me ever since. It made me question everything. At the time, I was a broke student in London. My flat contract had just run out, and I needed a place to live immediately. I didn't want to bother my parents for money or ask them to act as guarantors, so I did what any desperate Londoner would do. I Googled the cheapest room I could move into that very day. By sheer luck, or maybe misfortune, I found one. The next day I signed the contract and moved into a detached house with 4 other people in their 20s and 30s. The house itself was awful. It was always damp and cold, and it had a heavy, unpleasant atmosphere. The garden was overgrown, the windows were cracked and scratched, and the hall light didn't work, which meant the living room and connecting hallways were pitch black at night. The bathroom was filthy. On my very first night, one of the flatmates told me they all heard weird noises there, especially scratching on the blackened bathroom window. I laughed it off, assuming it was just a tree branch brushing against the glass. But within a couple of weeks, I started noticing things myself. Every day, I'd close my bedroom curtains in the morning before leaving for class. Yet, without fail, I'd come home to find them pulled halfway open. Sometimes I'd even close them again before heading out in the evening, only to return hours later to find them open again. The windows were locked, the door was locked, and I was the only one with a key. But when I was in the room for hours on end, the curtains never moved. Then there were the noises. Above me was a locked attic, supposedly just a storage space. But at night, I could hear stomping, running, like children racing back and forth, and sometimes whispers. I'd even go up to the attic door and try to open it, convinced someone must be up there. But it was always locked. No one ever admitted to having access. One of my flatmates was a very religious man. I often heard him praying 5 times a day. He was always friendly and open to talking about his faith, and he would listen to me complain about the state of the house. But interestingly, he said he never heard or saw anything unusual, just dirt and damp. A few weeks later, he left to visit family in Algeria for several months, locking his room behind him. Around week 6 or 7, another flatmate moved out, and I convinced a close friend of mine to take the vacant room. We went to the same university and worked together, so it was great having him around. He didn't believe in ghosts either, but soon enough he began noticing the same things. The attic stomping, the scratching windows, my curtains moving on their own. He also constantly felt like he was being watched. One day, pest control came to check the shed in the garden. When they opened it, they found 6 dead rats and a pile of hollowed-out bees. Creepy, but not exactly supernatural. Then came the night that changed everything. My friend and I were eating dinner in the kitchen. I was facing him, and he was facing the sliding glass doors that looked out onto the overgrown garden. Suddenly, he went pale. He jumped up and said, in a terrified voice, "Can you come to my room?" I laughed, thinking he was joking, but he repeated, "Seriously, please, come to my room now." And then he bolted. I followed him upstairs. He locked the door, sat on his bed shaking, and turned on his PlayStation like he was trying to distract himself. After a few minutes, he finally told me what happened. He said he saw a woman in a white dress walking across the garden, just half a meter from the glass. She didn't walk so much as float. And then she vanished. That incident changed him completely. He kept saying, "We have to leave. We can't stay here." Other flatmates had creepy experiences too. One told me they'd seen me in my room at night, peering through the gap in my curtains as they walked up the driveway. The problem was, I wasn't home those nights. 2 nights after the woman in the garden incident, my friend woke me at 3 a.m. by banging on my door. He said his bed had started shaking, vibrating beneath him. He was terrified. The next day, he packed his things and left to stay with a friend. Within a week, another flatmate also moved out, partly creeped out, but mostly fed up with how disgusting the house was. By this point, those of us remaining were all looking for new places. When the landlord came by one day, he used his spare key to open the religious flatmate's locked room, and this shocked me. It was beautiful inside, warm, cozy, spotless, no damp, no cold, no oppressive atmosphere. It felt like a completely different house. Then came my final night there. I was home, alone. Around 3 a.m., I heard noises in the hallway. I knew no one else was there, but I opened my door anyway. The hall was pitch black, as always, but empty. Then I went into the bathroom with a torch. As I finished and zipped up my shorts, the light briefly flicked across the blackened window. For some reason, I felt compelled to look. Nothing. But when I stepped out, I glanced back one more time without the torchlight. That's when I saw it. The shadow of a large man in the glass. I rushed back to my room, locked the door, and sat awake all night. The stomping and running in the attic was constant. I piled all of my belongings in the middle of the room, sat on my bed, and just waited for morning. As soon as the sun rose, I grabbed a taxi, left that house, and never returned. And to this day, you couldn't pay me to go back. Do follow and subscribe to Miss Macabre for more such terrifying tales. Remember, we know what you fear,